It's a little bit past 4. I think we have a good crowd, so let's go ahead and get started. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. We're happy to present today's webinar, Setting Up a Successful Sales Plan with Charlie Howard, BloomNet's Director of Products and Services. Charlie brings a wealth of experience of running a successful floral business. So before we begin this webinar in earnest, I'd like to ask Charlie to share more about himself and his experience.
Thank you, Renato. I'm Charlie Howard, and prior to joining BloomNet, I was at Kuhn Flowers in Jacksonville, Florida for 25 years. I started out as the accountant and ended up being the owner, along with my partner, Marty McCall. I've done every job in the flower shop. I can honestly say I'm not very good at design, but I do make one hell of a bud vase. My background prior to being a florist is basically in the financial area. Did a lot of financial modeling for big insurance companies and for big builder developers. Unfortunately, they were all in New England, and I haven't lost that New England sense of humor or Yankee sense of humor. But at any rate, I'm a fellow florist. I've been there. I've done that. I understand what we have as far as challenges, and I want to assure you that I'm here to help you increase your business or do whatever I can to help you understand how you can make your shop run that much better and be more profitable. And that's what we all want.
Okay, thank you very much, Charlie. Before we begin, just another housekeeping note. If you have any questions throughout the broadcast, don't be shy and ask them in the questions pane of your go-to-webinar control panel. We also have Peyton Nill online, so she'll be monitoring these questions throughout. So if you do have a question, pop it in there, and she'll let us know that a question has been asked, and we'll go ahead and take a pause during the webinar and answer those questions. We also have that. Recall, we also have that dedicated 10-minute Q&A session at the end, so we'll have lots of time for questions. With that, Charlie, take it away.
Thank you. Well, I'll break the ice and I'll ask the first question. What were your sales last year? And most of you will give me a number, but guess what? The answer is 2 words: not enough. We cannot get enough sales. And if we could, we wouldn't be on this webinar, would we? As florists, we all have the same thing in common. We basically sell flowers. But we're also very passionate about the work that we do, and we love to bring that smile to a person's face when they get our flowers and we make their day. However, we also are very much different from each other. Some of you are in a very, very small market. Others of you are competing in a very large market. So there is no one plan fits all. We have to tailor our sales plan to fit your market that you're dealing with. So we have at the website 2 forms which are now also on the screen. One is a florist profile, and there are about 4 sections in that form. And what we want to do is we just want to kind of spend a couple minutes just kind of going through what is on that form and what kind of information you can put on there. Your general information is basically something that I would have, and you have a shop name, and you have your code, and your city, and your state, and your phone number, how long you've been in business, what are your average sales, how many incoming orders do you get on a yearly basis, how many do you send out. Some of us are totally incoming, some of us are totally outgoing, some of us are a blend between the 2. How many employees do you have in your shop? How many shops do you have? How many wire services do you belong to? All of that really doesn't help you with your sales numbers, but it does kind of track your history. So if you have this form year over year and you do it every year, it's kind of an exercise just to get you to focus in on some of the things. The next section is demographics. And you say, well, where did you get all those numbers from? Well, believe it or not, you can go on the internet, and you know everything on the internet is true. You can type in demographics and you can put in your zip code. And all of a sudden, it will populate and you'll get things like what is the population of your zip code? What is the median age? What is the per capita income? What is the mean household income? What is the house value? What is the racial mix? And the last one is not going to show up in the demographics, but if you Google, again, florist and your zip code, you will get a list of florists in your area. And that, again, sometimes is a little outdated and so forth because you live in that market and you're going to say, that shop's been closed for a couple years. But at any rate, it gives you a little bit of idea now of your median age group. Well, my experience has been when you're looking at the age group, we were here in Jacksonville, but we had a store in St. Augustine, which was about 35 miles south of Jacksonville. The age in St. Augustine was 10 years older than it was in Jacksonville. So we had older people that normally will receive flowers, but they didn't send any. So it was a good area to be an incoming florist and not so good in sending orders. Just an idea. Okay. All right. So with you now knowing a little bit about your demographics and what kind of market you're in, we now want to really examine your sales volume, where it's coming from, and what we can do to maybe help you get more of that sales volume. We have developed a florist operating model, and the model has green sections that you basically can put in there and you can run your own analysis on it. Now remember, when you're looking at a model, it's also a projection, and projections will give you an average, and an average sometimes can be a little misleading. As an example, if you order a boutonniere, that's a $10 order. And if you also have a wedding that you're getting $2,000 for, when you average the two together, your average order would be over $1,000. Well, that kind of distorts the numbers, so you have to take the average order with a grain of salt, especially if you're doing a lot of wedding and special events.
Hey Charlie, sorry to interrupt, but just in case you didn't get notification of this, you could actually download these files at floriologyinstitute.com/register. You'll see download links on the register link. Sorry, I just wanted to be sure that
sure.
Everyone knew that you could have these files in front of you and punch in your own numbers, as Charlie provided guidance with these Excel files. Go ahead, Charlie.
Okay, so the first section is that we've got this number, annual sales, $324,000. And you say, okay, Charlie, where did you get that number? Well, again, off the internet, when you take a look at average florist in 2012, it was $324,000 was the average florist. All right? And I just put in there, for safety's sake, the average order that this shop would do is $60. Based on those calculations and so forth, it will basically then calculate out basically how many orders you would get. Now, in a perfect world, every day you would have the same amount of orders. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. Normally, florists have 3 big months that our monthly order volume changes. Valentine's is sometimes as high as 3 times your normal monthly sales number. Mother's Day in May is twice that number, and in December, again, maybe it's twice that number. And now if we really take a look at July, and it's been very, very slow for you, it's not even a full month. Maybe you're at 80% or you're only at 90% of what you do. At any rate, you can change that factor in the factor field to basically weight how you're going to distribute that $324,000 of annual sales. So looking at the model real quick, you can see that February, you'll do $60,000 in sales. And that means that you've got 1,013 orders. And the next field over is days open. And again, you'll have to change that because each of us are different. Some of you florists only believe in working 5 days a week. God bless you. I used to use 6 and sometimes 6.5. But at any rate, you can go ahead and put that factor in there on how many days you're going to be open for the month. And that will, again, compute up, again, as an average, how many sales per day you are going to do. And if you divide that sales per day by that $60, it then shows you basically that in some of those months, you're only doing 12 to 13 orders a day. So that's what that model kind of does for you and so forth. So it spreads out your monthly goals, if you will, or gives you a projection of how your sales will be, and you can use that for a budgeting tool. Now we're going to get down to the really exciting areas of this model, and that is that we want to know now, where is the money coming from? How are your orders being paid for? And we only really have 4 categories. Number 1 is cash. And with the debit card, cash is going away, and not much is falling on the floor anymore like in the old days, is it? The next is credit cards. Credit cards would include your debit card, and in some cases, the rate can go anywhere that it costs you to process that credit card anywhere from 2.5% all the way up to 5%, depending on your volume and the type of card. A lot of you sometimes shy away from American Express because American Express is a more expensive card, and that usually clears somewhere between 3.5% and 5% to clear the card, unless you can get a special deal. But I will tell you that when a guy has an American Express card, he will spend more money than if he had a Visa card under normal circumstances. The next one is house charge. Some of you are taking house charges. That's where basically you're billing the customer direct. But it's not as easy as it seems because it requires you to do a lot more work and work for your money. Yeah, you save the discount there, but then you've got to chase your money with reminders or telephone calls to the customer about, hey, can you send me a check this time? So we have found at Kuhn's that over the years, we had not encouraged the house charge except for business accounts, because business accounts seem to be able to like that because we were able to, number 1, bill them on a monthly basis and also include invoices that went with the statement so that they would pay them. And the last category is your incoming wire orders. And that gives you an idea of what your volume is if you add up all of those together, and that adds up to your 100%. And again, it shows you basically by payment type how many orders you would generate during the year. The next area that we're talking about is your product mix for inventory sales. And of course, your biggest one is going to be your fresh flowers that are going to include sympathy and wedding. And we have that just targeted at 80%. Some of you will be higher, some of you will be lower. Greenhouse and plants, depending on, again, your market and so forth, you may carry plants or you may not carry plants. If you've got a garden center 2 blocks down from you, you probably don't sell too many plants unless it's going to a funeral. Giftware, which includes your balloons, candy, and plush, we've got 7.5% in there, and then some of you may or may not do fruit gourmet. Fruit has become tougher and tougher to do because you now have competition from something called an edible arrangement, so forth, and they can deliver just as quick as we can. And gourmet is a tough one. Some markets can sell it and some can't. The other thing of it is that you have to be aware of your inventory and you have to be able to turn that inventory over, and sometimes it's just not profitable to keep those lines, but it's always something to think about. The next area we want to talk about is the source of your orders. Where are those orders coming from? Well, of course, we have the one at the very, very top, which is your incoming wire orders. And that's the same number that came up from how the orders were being paid for. The next is website orders. How effective is your website? How many orders are you getting? How much of of your business is coming from your website. And when you start putting that number down and you say, geez, I get 10%, so I got $32,000 a year from a website. Not too bad, huh? Okay. The next item is walk-in. Some of you have walk-in because you're located in a nice place. Others of you would like to get more walk-in, but it's not happening. Well, why isn't it happening? Sometimes you have to basically invite the customers to come in and visit your store by giving them come into the store and I'll give you a free rose, or I'll add a rose to your arrangement, or at Easter you have the Easter Bunny there and you can have pictures with the Easter Bunny, or at Christmas time you have Santa Claus there and they'll come in and visit Santa and they'll visit your store and they'll say, wow, I didn't realize this was so nice. I didn't realize you carried this. I didn't realize you were even here. This is great. Those are just some quick ideas. And the last one is still the telephone, because you'll get the guy on the telephone and he's in trouble and he needs that arrangement and he needs to hear that voice that says, guess what, Charlie, that arrangement is going to be there at 3 o'clock at your wife's door. All of a sudden, I wipe my brow and say, wow, I dodged another bullet. So that's where a lot of that telephone business comes in. Even though the web and the internet and all that stuff is good and so forth, it's still the telephone, and people still need to get that personal touch. The next portion we take a look at is how are those orders being delivered? Are you delivering them? Are people coming in to pick them up? Or are you wiring them out? And again, it just gives you a blend of what is your shop profile, where is your volume coming from. And the last one is kind of an interesting category, and that is by occasion. And in this particular model, we see that we've got 20% of sympathy, and we're doing 5% in weddings and special events. And then we've got birthdays, we've got anniversary, we've got get well, we've got new baby, we've got business, and then we've got in love or in trouble. But the bottom line is that all of those occasions, if you have a POS system that you're able to track some of that when you're putting in the order and you're taking what is the occasion for this order, you now start to build some statistics that you can start working on. Well, if you take a look and you say, geez, I'm not doing as much on birthday and the anniversary as I used to. Well, are you sending out birthday and anniversary reminders to the customers, reminding them, hey, a birthday's coming up next week. Do you want to do the same thing you did last time? So those are some ideas on the occasion. But the bottom line on this model and so forth, it gives you a chance to actually examine your sales and get an idea of what you're currently doing and what they look like. Now, if we click over to the next tab next to data called statement, oh, guess what we've got here? If we move up to the top, you can see now that you're getting a financial statement by month, which shows you how many orders you did for the month, what was the average order, which is $60, and what your sales were. And then we're breaking our sales out between fresh flowers, greenhouse and plants, giftware, and then fruit and gourmet. So whenever you change any of those numbers in the green area from your data section, it's going to automatically move over to your financial statement. Okay? And now this is kind of a teaser, because what we're going to do in future webinars is we're going to then tackle the next sections, and that will be your cost of goods and what's going to drive those cost of goods, and where are we going to come up with some goals for you to kind of reach out and see if you can hit those goals. Okay? I'll tease you real quick in that we basically want those cost of goods to be right around 35%. Okay? And I know you're going to cheat and go further down the model, and you're going to take a look at labor, and we'll hit labor, and we'll go through that on a webinar as well. And then we'll get down into the operating expenses, and we've got those split into two pieces. One is fixed expenses, which means that basically they don't change month over month. They might go up a little bit, but not too much. like your heat or your AC here in Florida. And then we have controllable. On the last webinar, I had someone ask me about marketing expenses. How much should I pay for marketing? Can anyone answer that question for me? How much money you got? But that's not the real answer. The real answer is that how much can you afford to advertise, but better yet, where are you going to put your money to advertise? And that will depend on your market and how much it costs in your market to do these various things. At any rate, if we go all the way down to the bottom of it, because we're going to put in the other income for your wire out commissions and your relay fees and your rebate fees and your delivery income and so forth, you can see that your other income really is pretty big. And guess what? Right now, we've got this guy making some money. Not a lot of money, but kind of money. But I love February. I mean, basically, he's got $27,000 in profit after everything's said and done. But your profit is going to change, you know, because your numbers are going to be different than this average florist number. But the bottom line is that I am here to help you understand your financials and help you in any of these areas that you have a problem with or that you have a challenge. Excuse me, we don't have problems, we have challenges. So if you have any questions or you need some help, so forth, you can reach out to me. I've got my email, I think, somewhere here.
Why don't you go ahead and, Charlie, why don't you go ahead and just let people know your email.
My email is choward@worldflowers.com. I'm here 5 days a week, and I'm here to help you. And I'm not going to try to sell you anything tonight. I won't promise that tomorrow, but tonight we're not selling anything other than I'm here to help you and help you understand your numbers. And if you have any problems or you want me to help you through some of these questions that you might have on the model, I'm here because I'm part of the education process. And if you're successful, then I'm going to be successful. And that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Charlie. Peyton, are there any questions in the queue that someone has asked? Also, Peyton posted in the chat Charlie's contact information. So you could look in there, but I'll go ahead and repeat it. It's C. Howard, all one word, CHOWARD @worldflowers.com. That too is also just one word. Let me check. Okay. No questions.
Yeah, we don't have any questions right now, but if anyone has some, feel free to just pop those right in the question box, and we will answer those at the end.
Yeah, thank you, Peyton. So we'll just stick around for a minute or two to see if there's any questions that pop in the queue. But if you are shy to ask, please take Charlie up on his offer and send him a quick note via email, and he'll gladly answer your question.
Okay, we have one question that just came in. The question is, cost of goods should be around 35%. What about labor?
That's a good question about labor. Labor I like to target at 30%. Again, I want to give you a number that's obtainable, not a dream and so forth. I've seen labor down as far as 20%. One of the big factors is, especially in the smaller stores and so forth, the quote owner, manager, designer, and part-time delivery person is doing all of it and so forth. So he only has maybe a part-time person, or he's got a family member that he's not paying and so forth. And yeah, it looks like his number is in line. But in all honesty, that distorts the number a little bit. So if you are the owner and you do have to have help and so forth, and you're paying yourself not an absorbent amount of money for salary, but you're paying yourself something that you would normally have to pay someone else if they were doing it, and then 30% seems to be somewhat in line.
Okay, Charlie, thank you very much for that answer. While we're still waiting for a couple of minutes for any other questions to come in, I just wanted to repeat that you could download these files right now at floriologyinstitute.com/register. We did include them in that registration link just so you may have them prior to the webinar, but we'll go ahead and keep that link up even after we end this webinar just so you guys have an opportunity to download them. We'll also include them in a follow-up email that will also prompt you to fill out a survey. Please do, because we'd like to make sure that these webinars are useful for you. And if you could just answer just a few questions about how this webinar went, it would go a long way for us to improve the quality of these webinars. So Peyton, how does the question queue look? Do we have any more questions? Okay, not a problem. So if there are no more questions, Charlie, thank you again for the presentation. And also, like what we said, if you have any questions for Charlie after the webinar, please feel free to email him at choward@worldflowers.com. Thank you, everyone, for your participation, and have a great day.